It was 3 a.m. The hospital corridor was silent, too silent. In room 304, a man was dying. His body burning from the inside. His family, broken. 5 senior doctors had tried. All 5 had failed. The disease had no name. No cure. No hope. But one young doctor couldn't walk away. She saw something others missed. Something terrifying. Something impossible. She had 12 hours to save him or watch him die. What she discovered that night would change everything. This is a true story about the thin line between life and death. Rajesh Kumar woke up every morning at 4:30 before the sun touched the London sky. He didn't need an alarm. His body had learned the rhythm over 15 years of driving a black cab through the city's veins. He would quietly make tea in the small kitchen of their flat in Southall, careful not to wake his wife Priya or their 2 children, 14-year-old Anika and 9-year-old Seema. While the kettle boiled, he'd open his worn notebook. Inside were recipes. Handwritten. Collected from passengers, from his mother back in India, from cooking shows he watched late at night. Rajesh had a dream. A small restaurant. Nothing fancy. Just honest food that reminded people of home. He'd been saving for 12 years. Every extra pound went into a jar hidden behind the rice container. Last month, he'd finally signed the lease for a tiny shop space in Hounslow. 6 months to save for equipment and licenses. 6 months until his dream became real. "Papa, you're smiling at the notebook again," Anika would tease him at breakfast. "Because soon, Beta, you'll be smiling at real customers eating your papa's cooking," he'd reply, ruffling her hair. Rajesh was the spine that held them all upright. Priya worked part-time at a pharmacy, but it was Rajesh's income that paid the rent, the school fees, the bills. When Anika needed books, she asked Papa. When Seema wanted football boots, he asked Papa. When Priya's mother in India needed medicine, Rajesh sent money without hesitation. He wasn't just their provider. He was their solver of problems, their listener after bad days, their steady hand when things felt uncertain. On Saturdays, he'd take Seema to the park and teach him cricket. On Sundays, he helped Anika with her maths homework, even though she was getting better at it than him. On Tuesday evenings, he and Priya would watch their favorite quiz show together, shouting answers at the television and laughing when they got them wrong. Their life wasn't rich, but it was full. Full of small joys. Full of routines that felt like comfort. Full of love that didn't need expensive words. It was a Thursday morning when everything changed. Rajesh woke up at his usual time, but something felt strange. His head felt heavy, like it was filled with wet cotton. He made his tea, but his hands trembled slightly as he poured it. He thought perhaps he hadn't slept well. By midday, while waiting for a fare near King's Cross, the headache arrived. Not a normal headache. This was different. It felt like pressure building inside his skull, like something was pushing outward from within. He drove home early, which he never did. Priya knew immediately something was wrong. Rajesh never came home early. "Just tired," he said, forcing a smile. "I'll rest." But that night, he couldn't eat. The smell of food made him feel sick. His vision seemed slightly blurred. And there was a strange stiffness in his neck that wouldn't ease no matter how he positioned the pillow. "We should go to the doctor," Priya said, her voice tight with worry. "Tomorrow," Rajesh promised. "If it's not better tomorrow." He didn't sleep that night. The headache grew worse. At 3 in the morning, Priya found him in the bathroom, bent over the sink, vomiting. His skin was burning hot. "Rajesh, we're going to hospital. Now." Anika woke to her mother's frightened voice. She came out to find her father, her strong, always smiling father, leaning heavily on the wall, barely able to stand. "Papa." Her voice was small, scared. Seema appeared in his doorway, rubbing his eyes. When he saw his father, he started crying. He'd never seen Papa look weak before. The hospital waiting room was cold and bright. Rajesh's fever climbed. 39 degrees. Then 40. His answers to the doctor's questions became confused, slow. They admitted him immediately. Tests began. Blood tests. Urine samples. A CT scan. The doctors frowned at charts and whispered to each other just out of earshot. Priya sat in the corridor with both children pressed against her sides. Anika had stopped asking questions. Seema had stopped crying. They just sat, frozen, while their normal life crumbled around them like old paper. Priya had been supposed to work that morning. She didn't go. She called in, her voice breaking as she explained. Anika had a geography test. She missed it. It didn't matter anymore. Seema had football practice after school. His kit sat untouched in his bag. The restaurant lease document sat on Rajesh's bedside table at home. In 6 days, he was supposed to meet with the landlord to finalize everything. None of it mattered now. By Friday evening, Rajesh's condition had worsened. He was confused, barely recognizing Priya when she held his hand. The fever wouldn't break. His breathing had become labored. And the doctors still didn't know what was wrong. "We're running more tests," they told Priya. "We're doing everything we can." But their eyes told a different story. Their eyes said, "We don't understand this." Saturday morning, Rajesh began having seizures. Small ones at first, then longer, more violent. They moved him to intensive care. Priya called Rajesh's brother in Birmingham. He drove down immediately. She called her sister. She called their friends from the temple. Everyone stopped their lives and came. Because Rajesh was the kind of man people came for. The man who'd helped his neighbor move house even with a bad back. The man who'd driven an elderly passenger home for free when she couldn't afford the fare. The man who remembered everyone's birthdays. Now he lay in a hospital bed, burning with fever, his mind lost in confusion, while machines beeped and 4 lines dripped fluids into his arm. The doctors had no answers. And his family could do nothing but watch the light of their life flickering, threatening to go dark. Dr. Patel was the senior consultant who examined Rajesh on Sunday morning. He had 30 years of experience, medals on his office wall, and a reputation for solving difficult cases. He reviewed all the tests with a team of specialists. Priya stood outside the consultation room, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had gone white. When Dr. Patel emerged, his expression made her stomach drop. "We've tested for meningitis, negative. Encephalitis, negative. We've checked for sepsis, for autoimmune conditions, for rare infections. Mrs. Kumar, I'm going to be honest with you. We're not certain what we're dealing with. But you'll keep trying." Priya's voice cracked. "You'll find it. We're doing everything within our power," Dr. Patel said. It wasn't the same as yes. They started him on broad-spectrum antibiotics anyway, hoping it was some infection they'd missed. For 2 days, they pumped him with medication. His fever climbed to 41 degrees. The seizures increased. Tuesday morning, they brought in Dr. Harrison, a neurologist from another hospital. Renowned. Published in major journals. He spent 3 hours reviewing the case. He ordered different tests. A lumbar puncture. More detailed brain imaging. He adjusted medications, trying a new combination. For one day, Wednesday, Rajesh seemed slightly better. The fever dipped to 39. He opened his eyes and seemed to recognize Priya. Is Seema okay?" he whispered. Priya wept with relief. He's fine. Everyone's fine. You just get better." But that night, everything collapsed again. Rajesh's kidneys began to fail. His blood pressure dropped dangerously low. They had to put him on a ventilator because he couldn't breathe properly on his own. Dr. Harrison stood in the corridor with Dr. Patel, and their voices carried to where Priya Saturday. "I've never seen a presentation quite like this," Dr. Harrison admitted. "The symptoms don't align with any single diagnosis. It's as if we're looking at pieces of different illnesses. Do we continue the current treatment protocol?" I don't know what else to suggest." Priya felt her heart physically break. These were the best doctors. And they were out of ideas. Thursday morning, a different specialist came. Dr. Okonkwo, an infectious disease expert. She was calm, methodical. She asked Priya 100 questions. Where had Rajesh traveled? What had he eaten? Who had he been in contact with? Any animal bites? Any new medications? Anything unusual in his work? They ran more tests. Tested for tropical diseases, rare parasites, environmental toxins. All negative. Friday afternoon, Dr. Okonkwo sat down with the family. Her face was gentle but defeated. "I'm so deeply sorry," she said quietly. "We've exhausted our current diagnostic possibilities. We're keeping him stable, supporting his organs, but without knowing what we're fighting." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Anika had stopped going to school. She sat in the waiting room, her textbooks untouched beside her, staring at nothing. Seema had stopped speaking almost entirely. He just held his mother's hand and stayed close. Priya looked like she'd aged 10 years in 1 week. Her sister had to force her to eat, to drink water, to rest even for an hour. Rajesh's brother sat with his head in his hands, whispering prayers. The restaurant landlord called. Priya couldn't even speak to him. She just let it ring. Everything they'd built, everything they'd dreamed, was disappearing like smoke. Saturday night, the hospital felt especially quiet. Dr. Emma Collins was finishing a double shift. She was 28, 2 years out of medical school, still finding her feet in the real chaos of hospital work. She was bright, top of her class, but she knew that exams and real patients were very different things. She'd been watching the Kumar case from a distance. She wasn't on his treatment team. She was too junior, too inexperienced for such a complex case. But she'd seen the family. Seen the wife who couldn't stop crying. Seen the daughter who looked lost. Seen the small boy who sat so quietly it broke your heart. And she'd read the notes. Every single one. She couldn't stop thinking about it. That night, she sat in the small staff room, Rajesh's file open on her lap, going through everything again. Something felt wrong. Not wrong with the patient, wrong with the picture they were seeing. The symptoms were strange, yes. But it was more than that. There was something inconsistent. She thought about all the senior doctors who'd tried and failed. What could she possibly see that they hadn't? She was nobody. A junior doctor who still got nervous inserting 4 lines. But she kept reading. And she kept feeling that pull in her chest. That feeling that said, this man is dying, and everyone has given up. Dr. Patel had written in the most recent note, continue supportive care. Prognosis extremely poor. Family should be prepared. Prepared. The word made Emma feel sick. She looked at the photo someone had clipped to the file, a photo Priya had given them, showing Rajesh smiling, holding both his children, at some happy family moment that now felt like it belonged to a different lifetime. Emma closed her eyes. She saw her father, years ago, lying in a hospital bed. A different illness. A different story. But the same fear in her mother's eyes. That time, a doctor had refused to give up. A doctor had tried one more thing when everyone else said it was hopeless. Her father had lived. Emma opened her eyes and looked at the file again. She was afraid. Afraid of failing, of making things worse, of being laughed at by senior doctors who knew so much more than her. But she was more afraid of not trying. She stood up, her decision made. She would try to save Rajesh Kumar. Even if it meant risking her reputation. Even if it meant working through the night. Even if it meant failing. Because someone had to try. And maybe, just maybe, fresh eyes would see what experienced ones had missed. She picked up the file and walked toward the ICU, her heart pounding, her hands trembling slightly, but her resolve absolutely solid. Behind her, the clock on the wall showed 11 minutes past midnight. Ahead of her, a man was dying. And she was going to fight for him. Emma stood outside the ICU, watching Rajesh through the glass. The machines surrounded him like guards. The ventilator breathed for him. His body looked small in the bed, diminished by illness in a way that made him seem less real, more like a medical case. But he wasn't a case. He was a father. A husband. A man with a dream written in a notebook. Emma had read Priya's notes to the doctors. About the restaurant. About the lease. About the life they'd built. She took a breath and went inside. For the next 3 hours, she read every single test result again. Line by line. Number by number. Blood work. Imaging. Culture results. Biopsies. Everything. The pattern everyone described was inflammation of the brain and rapidly progressing organ failure. But the cause remained invisible. At 3 a.m., Emma noticed something. One of the early blood tests, from the very first day, showed a slightly elevated level of eosinophils. White blood cells that often increased during allergic reactions or parasitic infections. But all the parasite tests were negative. And it was only slightly elevated. Every doctor had noted it and dismissed it as insignificant. Emma stared at that number. Slightly elevated. Everyone had focused on the dramatic symptoms, the fever, the seizures, the failing organs. But this quiet number sat there, mentioned once and then forgotten. She checked the environmental history again. Priya had told Dr. Okonkwo that Rajesh hadn't traveled anywhere exotic. Hadn't been bitten by animals. Hadn't started new medications. But what about his cab? Taxi drivers were exposed to everything. People brought in bags from everywhere. Items from their travels. Parcels they'd picked up. Emma pulled out her phone and researched rare parasitic infections. Then environmental toxins that could cause eosinophilia. Then occupational exposures. At 4:30 a.m., she found something. A rare condition. So rare it was mostly seen in agricultural workers or in very specific environmental exposures. It could cause brain inflammation, organ failure, and elevated eosinophils. The symptoms matched almost perfectly. But the standard tests wouldn't catch it. You had to specifically look for it. And you had to look fast, because it progressed rapidly and was often fatal without very specific treatment. Her hands shook as she read. This could be it. But she was a junior doctor. She couldn't just start treatment based on a hunch. She needed to talk to Dr. Patel. Get permission. Run the specific test. She found him at 6 a.m., just arriving for rounds. Dr. Patel, I think I might have found something. She explained her theory. Showed him the research. Pointed to the eosinophil count everyone had dismissed. Dr. Patel listened, his expression neutral. Dr. Collins, I appreciate your initiative. But this condition you're describing is extraordinarily rare. The likelihood is higher than the likelihood of all our current treatments working, Emma interrupted, then immediately regretted her tone. I'm sorry, sir. I think it's worth testing for. Dr. Patel was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. Run the test. But it will take at least 24 hours to get results. And Dr. Collins? Mr. Kumar may not have 24 hours. His organs are shutting down. Then let me start treatment now. Please. The medication isn't harmful if I'm wrong, but if I'm right and we wait. If you're wrong and we use the wrong treatment, we could make him worse. He's already dying, Emma said quietly. Every other option has failed. Please. Something in her voice must have reached him. Or perhaps he was desperate enough to try anything. You can try, he said finally. But this is on you, Dr. Collins. If it goes wrong, it's on you. Emma felt the weight of those words. But she nodded. I understand. By 8 a.m., she'd started the treatment. A specific antiparasitic medication combined with steroids to reduce inflammation. The doses had to be precise. Too little wouldn't work. Too much could be toxic. She sat with Rajesh, monitoring every vital sign. Priya arrived at 9 a.m. with the children. Emma met them in the corridor. Mrs. Kumar, I'm Dr. Collins. I've started a new treatment. It's based on a theory about what might be causing your husband's illness. Priya's eyes filled with desperate hope. Will it work? I don't know, Emma said honestly. But I'm going to try my absolute hardest. Priya grabbed Emma's hands. Please. Please save him. He's everything. He's everything to us. Emma felt the weight of those words settle on her shoulders like stones. For 6 hours, she watched and waited. At 3 p.m., Rajesh's fever spiked to 41.5 degrees. His blood pressure crashed. The alarm screamed. His crashing, her nurse shouted. Emma's heart stopped. This was it. The treatment was failing. She'd been wrong. She'd killed him. We need to intubate him further, get more pressors on board. Emma's hands moved on autopilot, doing what needed to be done, but her mind was screaming. Wrong, 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 you were wrong, you've killed him. They worked for 20 minutes to stabilize him. When his blood pressure finally came back up and the alarms quieted, Emma stood there shaking. Dr. Patel appeared in the doorway. His face was hard. Dr. Collins. A word. Outside, he turned to her. He nearly died. Your treatment nearly killed him. I know. I'm sorry. I thought. You thought. But you're not experienced enough to know that sometimes the treatment itself causes a crisis before improvement. If that's even what this is. Emma felt tears burning her eyes. Should I stop? Dr. Patel looked back at the ICU. At Rajesh. At Priya visible through another window, holding her children. No, he said finally. We're past the point of stopping. We continue and we hope you're right. Because if you're not, that man dies, and it's because we tried something desperate instead of keeping him comfortable. Emma went to the bathroom and cried for 5 minutes. Great, shaking sobs of fear and doubt. Then she washed her face and went back. At 8 p.m., she was sitting by Rajesh's bed, reviewing his charts again, when she noticed something. His fever. It had dropped. Only by 0.3 degrees. Barely anything. Could be natural variation. But it had dropped. She checked again at 9 p.m. Down another 0.2 degrees. At 10 p.m., down another 0.4 degrees. Her heart started beating faster. At midnight, his fever was 39.8. Still high, but falling steadily. At 2 a.m., the test result came back early. Positive. She'd been right. Rajesh had a rare parasitic infection called toxocariasis, but an unusual strain, combined with a severe allergic reaction that had triggered the massive inflammation. So rare that it had only been documented a handful of times. Likely from exposure to contaminated material someone had brought into his cab. The treatment she'd started was exactly right. But he wasn't saved yet. Not nearly. His organs were still failing. The infection had done massive damage. The treatment would work on the parasite, but would his body recover? Emma sat there in the dark ICU, watching him breathe, and realized something. Saving him wasn't just about the right diagnosis. It was about time. About supporting every system in his body while the treatment worked. About not giving up during every crisis. It was about fighting for every single hour. She pulled out her phone and texted her flatmate, "Won't be home. Maybe not for days." Then she settled into the chair beside Rajesh Kumar's bed. She'd found the answer. Now came the real battle. The next 48 hours were the longest of Emma's life. She didn't leave the ICU except to use the bathroom. She slept in the chair beside Rajesh's bed, in broken fragments of an hour here, 30 minutes there. She monitored every vital sign, adjusted every medication dose, watched for every tiny change. The treatment was working on the infection. The test confirmed it. The parasites were dying. But Rajesh was still dying too. His kidneys had barely any function left. His liver was struggling. His brain was so swollen they'd had to give him medication to reduce the pressure inside his skull. The ventilator breathed for him because he couldn't breathe alone. Monday afternoon, his blood pressure crashed again. Emma and the team fought for an hour to bring it back. Monday night, he had another seizure. A bad one. Emma held his hand through it, whispering, "Fight. Please fight." Tuesday morning, Dr. Patel came to her. "Dr. Collins, you should rest. You've been here for over 60 hours. I can't leave him. You'll be no good to him if you collapse. I'll rest when he's stable." Dr. Patel looked at her for a long moment. "You care about him." "I care about all my patients." "No," Dr. Patel said quietly. "This is different. You've made this personal." Emma met his eyes. "A doctor once made my father personal. When I was 15. Everyone said he wouldn't make it. One doctor refused to accept that. She stayed with him, tried things others wouldn't, fought when others had given up. My father lived. He walked me to university on my first day. He was at my graduation. He's still alive now." Her voice broke. "If she hadn't made it personal, I wouldn't have a father. So yes. This is personal." Dr. Patel's expression softened. He nodded and walked away. Tuesday afternoon, something changed. Rajesh's urine output increased. Just slightly. But it meant his kidneys were working again. Fighting back. Emma checked and rechecked. Yes. Definitely increasing. Tuesday night, his blood pressure stabilized without needing as much medication. Wednesday morning, the swelling in his brain had reduced. Not gone, but reduced. Wednesday afternoon, his oxygen levels improved. Small victories. Tiny steps. But steps in the right direction. Priya came every day. Emma started giving her updates every few hours. "He's fighting," Emma told her. "He's fighting so hard. Will he wake up?" Priya whispered. "I don't know. But I believe he can." Thursday morning, 5 days after Emma had started treatment, Rajesh's fever finally broke properly. Down to 37.8 degrees. Nearly normal. His kidney function was improving steadily. His liver enzymes were dropping. His brain swelling had reduced significantly. Dr. Patel stood beside Emma, looking at the monitors. "You did it," he said quietly. "You actually did it." "He's not awake yet," Emma said. "There could still be brain damage. We don't know. But he's alive. 3 days ago, I would have sworn he'd be dead by now. You saved his life, Dr. Collins." Emma felt tears she'd been holding back for days finally fall. Thursday afternoon, they reduced the sedation to see if Rajesh could breathe on his own. Emma, Priya, Dr. Patel, and 2 nurses stood around his bed. "Come on, Rajesh," Emma whispered. "You can do this." His chest moved. On its own. Breathing. They turned down the ventilator support. He kept breathing. Priya was crying, clutching her sister's hand. Friday morning, they removed the breathing tube entirely. Rajesh breathed on his own. Steady. Strong. But he still didn't wake. Emma sat beside him. "Rajesh, your family is here. Priya is here. Anika and Seema need you. Your restaurant is waiting. You have to wake up. Please." Nothing. Priya brought the notebook, the one with the recipes. She put it on the bed beside his hand. "Your dream is still here," she told him, her voice breaking. "We're all still here. Come back to us." Friday evening, at 6:30, Rajesh's hand moved. Just his fingers. A slight twitch. Emma was on her feet instantly. "Rajesh? Can you hear me?" His eyelids fluttered. "Get his wife," Emma told a nurse. Priya came running. Anika and Seema behind her. "Rajesh," Priya said, taking his hand. "It's me. It's Priya." His eyes opened. Slowly. Confused. But open. "Priya?" His voice was barely a whisper, rough from the breathing tube. "I'm here. I'm right here. The children. They're safe. They're here." Rajesh's eyes found Anika and Seema. Tears ran down his face. I thought I'd lost you all." "No," Priya sobbed. "No, we're here. You're here. You came back." Emma stepped back, giving them space, her own face wet with tears. Dr. Patel stood beside her. "Well done, Dr. Collins. Truly." Over the next week, Rajesh grew stronger. His organs continued healing. His mind cleared. Physiotherapy helped him regain strength. He asked Emma about what had happened. She explained the infection, the treatment, everything. Everyone had given up, he said. "Why didn't you?" Emma thought about her father. About the doctor who'd fought for him. About the chain of compassion that had led to her standing here now. "Because you mattered," she said simply. "You matter to your family. And that makes you matter to me." 2 weeks after waking up, Rajesh was discharged from hospital. The whole family came to say goodbye to Emma. Seema hugged her legs. Anika gave her a card she'd made. Priya held her hands and cried and thanked her over and over. Rajesh, still weak but standing on his own, looked at Emma with tears in his eyes. "You gave me my life back. How do I thank you for that?" "Live it," Emma said. "Live it fully. Open that restaurant. Make those recipes. Love your family. That's all the thanks I need. Will you come?" Rajesh asked. "When we open. You'll be our first guest. Free food for life." Emma laughed through her tears. "I'll be there." 3 months later, Emma received an invitation. Handwritten, in careful letters. "Kumar's Kitchen, grand opening. You are our honored guest." She went on a Saturday evening. The restaurant was small, warm, filled with the smell of spices and home cooking. Fairy lights hung on the walls. Tables filled with families eating and laughing. Behind the counter, Rajesh stood cooking, a huge smile on his face. Priya worked beside him. Anika and Seema helped serve food. When Rajesh saw Emma, he came around the counter and hugged her. "You see," he said. "You gave me this. All of this." Emma looked around at the life, the light, the love filling this small space. "No," she said. "You built this. I just helped you get the chance." That night, she sat with the Kumar family, eating the best food she'd ever tasted, surrounded by the noise and warmth of a dream finally real. And she understood something she'd carry with her forever. Medicine wasn't just about knowledge or skill. It was about seeing people. Really seeing them. Seeing the taxi driver with recipes in a notebook. Seeing the wife holding her family together. Seeing the children who needed their father. It was about refusing to give up when giving up seemed easier. It was about making it personal. Because every patient was personal to someone. Every life mattered to people who loved them. And sometimes, the greatest gift a doctor could give wasn't just healing the body. It was giving someone back their chance to live, to dream, to love. As Emma left that night, the lights of Kumar's kitchen glowing warm behind her, she thought about all the patients still waiting. All the families still hoping. All the battles still to fight. And she knew, with absolute certainty, that she would fight them. Because this moment, this life saved, this dream fulfilled, this was why she'd become a doctor. Not for the prestige or the knowledge. For this. For the human being behind the illness. For the father who makes tea at 4:30 in the morning and writes recipes in a notebook. For the humanity of it all. Emma walked home through the London night, her heart full, ready for whatever came next. Because somewhere out there, someone else would need a doctor who refused to give up. And she would be there. Always.